let us begin by inviting Geshe Lagdor to speak on what mental well-being, mental health, or mental hygiene means in Buddhist psychology.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saroj Thapa, for introducing today's webinar. And my greetings to my co-panelist, Dr. Monisha, and moderator, Dr. Saroj Thapa, the teachers, students, staffs, and everybody who is listening to this webinar. I had the privilege of visiting the Palawan Institute a few times. So it's wonderful to participate in this program organized by the Palawan Systems of Learning. And it is very befitting that Palawan is organizing all this series of webinars to help people when they are encountering this pandemic and experiencing a lot of stress, fear, and so forth. So I will be speaking, let us say, for around 6 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, around something like that.
Yes.
For each of the topic. And so briefly said, I would, explain this meaning of the word health or mental health or mental hygiene, things like that. In Tibetan, we have a very good term for health, which is called chotin, which means using or resorting those which is congenial to you, which is suitable to you. So whether it is your mental way of thinking or whether it's the food that you take, whether it's the way you talk to people, way you lead your life, everything should be suitable to you for your growth, for your well-being, for your happiness. So whatever is not suitable is not good for your health, physical as well as mental. And this reminds me teaching by, I think, Nagarjuna, who said that a person who always eats congenial food will never get sick. I mean, that is in terms of the physical health. Now, that physical health, according to Buddhism, is very much related to mental health. In fact, mental health is the most important thing, but at the same time, also the most neglected thing. So, Dr. Saroj, you're right to say that we are now showing more attention in this desperate time because there's no other way. So this, in that sense, so this is really a good opportunity, during these challenging times to go within. As some of the scholars, they say, the more you're asked not to go out, the more it gives you an opportunity to go inside. And the Tibetan and also in India, the ancient great sages and practitioners, there was no need for them to practice social distancing. They would automatically distance yourself from the ills of the society. So it may be the pandemic of negative emotions, it may be the pandemic of bad thinking or whatever. So they used to retreat themselves and go into the forest, into the mountain, and then go within. Instead of going out, they would go within themselves and explore all the inner resources, including wisdom, compassion, and so forth. And it is because of such voluntary solitude and isolation, they were able to come up with all this, ceaseless wisdom, which we are fortunately able to use today. So therefore, mental health or physical health basically means balancing. In Buddhism, we say, and in Tibetan medicine also we say, that disease or illness comes when because either you have imbalanced the 4 or 5 elements by which your psychophysical aggregate is composed, or it is because of the excessive presence of the 3 negative emotions, which is ignorance, hatred, and attachment. So therefore, you need to either balance the 4 elements, or you need to, basically it's saying the same thing, or you need to make the 3 faults, the hatred, anger, and attachment go away, or at least make them remain in a dormant state at our ordinary level, because it is difficult to get completely abandon it. So health means really health basically means a balanced state of your mind, a balanced state of your body. Your body gets ill and sick because the four elements are imbalanced. Either the fire is stronger than other elements, or the wind is more strong. If the wind is more strong, probably attachment will arise. If the fire is more strong, then there may be fever and things like this. So it's very, very clearly mentioned in those texts. So therefore, now this is therefore it becomes a very important issue now. Now the four elements, the fire and air and things that we use, comes from the external four elements. So first, the one of the contributing factor for the imbalances of the internal 4-5 elements is also because of the pollution and the deteriorating situation of the external environment, which we should really be worried about now, because the destruction that we do to the environment is much more dangerous than the COVID-19. For COVID-19, we at least have some hope that vaccines are coming out, although there's not much certainty how long it will, cure and things like that, but at least there are cure. But when we reach a state of total environmental destruction, then one injection cannot solve that problem. And this is, so therefore it is very, very important to balance your physical and mental health. It is important, first of all, to ensure that there is a balanced growth of the external 4-5 elements also, which is a huge amount of task to do that. And each of us have that responsibility. Now, at least at the individual level, even if the external elements are disturbed, but still through your mind training practice, through your practice of mindfulness and meditation, you can still balance your 4 elements within yourself by cultivating positive attitudes. As soon as you develop negative attitude, then of course your whole being is disturbed and you cannot have a proper health. So the important thing that I really want to say now is the problem that we are facing, whether it's the COVID-19 or any illnesses or any societal problem that we are facing, is because of our improper process of education. The so-called education that we are giving today is primarily based on the literacy, reading, writing, and mathematics. It is really not targeted towards human flourishment. Human flourishment means that you should give an education which is able to, cultivate and nurture and bring out the best in each and every student, each and every individuality. So which includes loving kindness, which includes compassion, which includes wisdom, and the most important thing is which includes, the positive attitude towards all sentient beings and with having the wish to help everybody. So those kind of elements are missing, unfortunately, or at least this is not so, taken so seriously. That's the problem. And the reason is human beings are very fond of playing with what is visible. Your body is visible. Therefore, you are not good in taking care of your body, but at least you do something. But the mind is invisible. It is colorless and shapeless. And therefore, you don't pay any attention. You may attend a teaching, you may attend a talk, you might think this is good, but then when it comes to implementation practice, you fail and you fail miserably. We don't do that. So now, in a positive tone, thank God, this COVID-19 is teaching us that unless you bring the solution from within yourself, you cannot solve any problem, including the COVID-19. Now, with this COVID-19 experience also, what we have seen clearly is it is because of lack of loving kindness and compassion. The leaders don't pay much attention to the people who are dying and suffering. And the society at large is also not paying enough attention to, help each other. And it is because of this, people, suffer from depression, people suffer from fear, and hardly anybody to trust, hardly anybody to talk to. So therefore, the problem that we are facing is, not just the COVID-19 problem. The main problem is mental problem, the fear, and then also the infodemic, as you say, the wrong information that you're getting. And then you get the impression as if this COVID-19 is individually coming to searching and coming after you. That's what we feel. And therefore we are suffering unnecessarily. So much of the suffering or problem that we face is not just because of COVID-19 or any other illness and disease, but primarily it is mental problem. So therefore we need to develop a mental outlook which is realistic, which is true to the way things are, and which is not fabricated. So I don't have much time to elaborate on this, so maybe we'll get some time to speak later. So I'll stop here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Geshe-la. Now, let me ask Monisha. Monisha, how would you define mental well-being, looking at it through the prism of modern science? Is it similar or very different from the way Geshe-la defined it?
First of all, I want to thank you, Saroj, for inviting me. It is my extreme deep honor to be part of this panelist with Geshe-la. I'm extremely honored. And it's a very interesting question. And I think I was taking notes when Geshe-la was speaking. And I think there are a lot of, the point of similarity is that we want a balanced state of the mind and body. I think from a psychological perspective, we can agree on that, right? But from a psychological perspective, what we find is typically when we looked at mental well-being, psychologists examined it from the presentation of symptoms that would come up, for example, anxiety, depression, somatic symptoms, behavioral problems, schizophrenia, things like that, and then would try to find answers for that and treatment of that. It has only been in the recent several decades that we have begun to look at mental well-being and what constitutes that, right? And from that perspective, what has emerged is that early development, right? Early development and the way a child attaches to caretakers and their capacity to then move on to society. I think we all agree that, and Saroj, you introduced this earlier on, this idea of being a productive member. So now of society. So what we look at is what helps the child develop socially, emotionally, cognitively, and psychologically in a collective and individualistic way, but with certain aspects of the external world and the internal world. So there's an internal world that has to, that meets certain developmental tasks that are asked of it at different ages, right? For example, adolescent developmental tasks are different than the task of a 5-year-old who goes to kindergarten, let's say preschool, or a child who's 7 or 8 years old is becoming part of a group. So there are internal pressures and internal conflicts you can think about, or anxieties that an individual experiences developing. And to the extent that they can understand that, to the extent that they can live with it, tolerate frustration, be able to have delay of gratification, have empathy, self-reflective functioning, resiliency, being able to modulate their emotions. This is part of what we hope for a child to get. But the challenge is this, is that there are external factors along with the internal pushes for certain developmental tasks, which are contextualized, you can say, in a cultural setup, but also in a familial setup. And they have some universal kind of trajectories. That there are also environmental factors that can pose challenges. For example, one of the things that we look at, and I specialize a great deal in, is working with very traumatized individuals. Traumatized children, traumatized adolescents, traumatized adults who come to me presenting with a variety of symptoms, and they may not even know that they've been traumatized, but they have difficulties. They have either they have very severe kinds of illnesses such as dissociations, or they have severe anxieties, or they have insomnia, they cannot work. So our goal is to, the realization is that there are external factors that are constantly in conjunction with internal factors, creating set of for the individual to achieve that balanced state of mind and body is challenging. So when I see a patient Although I'll, you know, in a very first session, a second session, I'll say to them, I said, you're having difficulties feeling comfortable in your own body. And I think this goes to Gishala's point, is to get a balanced state of the mind, to have purposeful actions, to be intentional, to function in life with compassion, to be related to another human being, to be able to connect with another human being. So in psychology, what we look at is what are the barriers to that kind of connection, that kind of functioning within oneself, the self-reflective functioning, and what are the barriers to connecting with the outside world. And whether it is an individual, whether it is with society, whether it is with a group of people. Now, it's also important to remember that not everyone exhibits the same pattern of connections or internal reflections. There are variations in that. So if you have a child, for example, or an individual who is more introverted, you can say, more, or what we call sometimes a little bit more internally oriented, they connect in a different way. They learn in a different way. They, you know, so I think that the psychologists and function is to really help the individual work with what, and I think this, we agree on this point, with what the internal world is and what the external challenges are, and can they find their own place in a balanced way, tolerating frustration, being resilient, because life does present challenges along the way at different stages, and this is one of them. The pandemic is a huge challenge to families and individuals. And can they bounce back? And can they bounce back with minimal? We will all experience some aspects of symptoms. To be depressed at times when the world is suffering and people are suffering is not a bad thing. Depression is not a negative thing. It is severe depression that gets in the way of our functioning that becomes something we need to be concerned about. But to reflect on the state of humanity, as Gisela is saying, is not necessarily a bad thing. And I think the idea that all depression should be removed is not necessarily a sign of mental well-being. We have to be able to sit with some feelings which allow us to have compassion, to have empathy, to recognize that we live in a world, we're connected to each other. And as Gisela very rightfully said, we live with nature. To have that kind of thing. This is where I think in the Western, because psychology, a lot of constructs have come from here, I sometimes struggle with the notion of happiness and what it means, because I think that that gets very, confused in the thinking as to what is, because happiness is defined in different ways. But I would definitely agree with Gisela that a balanced state of mind and body, being able to achieve a state of comfort within oneself, within one's emotions, one's mind, one's fantasies, and also be able to work in a purposeful and intentional way with the outside world would probably be my definition of mental well-being. And very challenging in times of the pandemic, because entire families, individual internal worlds and external worlds are so, disrupted at this time.